There's a kind of cold in Alaska that you don't understand until you feel it. It seeps into your bones, curls around your spine, and settles like a permanent roommate in your chest. That's the kind of cold that greeted me the night I arrived, at the Cold Pines Research Facility. Located 50 miles north of Anchorage and another 20 from the nearest gas station, the facility was a relic of a government project that officially didn't exist. I'd taken the job as night janitor out of desperation. No one takes a night shift that deep in the wilderness unless they've got nowhere else to go. The pay was suspiciously generous. The contract was filled with blacked-out lines, and the onboarding process ended with a man in a dark coat sliding a laminated card across the table and muttering, "Follow the rules and you'll make it through the week." The facility itself looked like a bunker built to withstand the end of the world. Thick concrete walls, reinforced steel doors, and windows so narrow they were more like slits. The structure was built half into the side of a hill with only a third of it visible above the snow line. I arrived just before sunset, which in January meant around 3:30 p.m. A short, tight-lipped woman named Dr. Penner met me at the gate. Her glasses were fogged from the cold, her gloves were military-grade, and her clipboard had one of those long checklists filled with cryptic entries like mainframe, secure, and containment B, locked. She didn't offer a handshake, or even eye contact. "You'll be cleaning wings A through D and the level 2 basement," she said. "Stay out of E-wing unless you're escorted. Understood?" I nodded. What else could I do? We entered through a decontamination chamber that hissed and clicked like some old submarine. Inside, the facility was even colder, if that was possible. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, casting pale, clinical shadows that made everything look like it had already died and been disinfected. She led me down a series of long, identical corridors until we reached the janitor's room. More of a glorified supply closet with a cot shoved in one corner. "This is your station. You don't leave until 6 a.m. Everything else you need to know is in this binder." The binder was thick, bound in cracked leather, and smelled faintly of mold and copper. She left before I could ask any questions, and the steel door clanked shut behind her like the closing of a vault. I flipped through the binder, expecting cleaning schedules and safety procedures. Instead, I found a single typed sheet on the first page, titled Night Janitor Protocols, Do Not Deviate. At exactly 11:11 p.m., check the mirror in the B-Wing lavatory. If you see a man in a suit behind you, do not turn around. Blink 3 times, then leave without looking back. 2. Never enter E-Wing after midnight, even if you hear screaming, especially if you hear screaming. 3. If you hear the PA system click on but no announcement follows, close your eyes until the humming stops. Do not speak. Do not move. 4. Every hour on the hour, shine your flashlight down the level 2 corridor. If something moves, note the time and location in the red logbook. Do not follow it. 5. If you encounter a duplicate of yourself, ask it what it did on its 13th birthday. If it answers correctly, incapacitate it immediately. 6. The facility is not empty. Pretend that it is. I read the rules twice, then a third time, unsure whether this was an elaborate hazing ritual or someone's twisted idea of a joke. But the way Dr. Penner had spoken, the absence of humor, the precision of her tone, it didn't feel like a joke. It felt like a warning. The binder held floor plans too, with certain areas scribbled out or marked in red. I made mental notes of the cleanable zones, grabbed my mop, and started my first round. The first few hours passed without incident. I mopped the scuffed linoleum in A-Wing, emptied trash bins in the level 2 labs, and restocked paper towels in the C-Wing bathrooms. The place was eerily quiet, the silence occasionally broken by the low rumble of generators or the clunk of the old HVAC system. There were cameras in every hallway, but I couldn't shake the feeling that they weren't just watching, they were waiting. I tried to stay calm, chalking it up to nerves. But when 11:11 p.m. crept up on the digital clock on my supply cart, I found myself standing in front of the B-Wing lavatory, sweating. I didn't believe in the supernatural. I believed in broken plumbing and mold spores and cleaning up things people shouldn't leave behind. But that rule, the one about the mirror, gnawed at me. With a deep breath, I stepped inside. The fluorescent light above the sink flickered as if on cue. I looked into the mirror. For a moment, it was just me. Tired eyes, scruffy stubble, janitor's uniform a size too big. Then, behind me, something shifted. He was tall, gaunt, wearing a suit that looked like it belonged to another decade. His eyes were black pits, and his expression was blank. Not angry, not sad, just empty. My gut screamed at me to run, but the rules were clear. I blinked, once, twice, 3 times. When I opened my eyes again, he was gone. The sink was dripping. My knees felt weak. I walked backward out of the room and didn't stop until I hit the far wall. The rest of the night crawled by, and though I stuck to the rules, I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched, studied. I checked the level 2 corridor at midnight. My flashlight caught something shifting in the shadows. Something long and low to the ground, like a person dragging themselves forward without legs. I recorded it in the logbook. Heart hammering. 12:08 a.m. Section D4. Movement. Confirmed. At 1 a.m., the PA system clicked on. No words, just the faint hum of static. I froze, closed my eyes, and tried not to breathe. The humming went on for nearly a minute. When it stopped, I opened my eyes again to find the mop bucket had moved 10 feet to my left. I hadn't heard it. I hadn't seen it. It had just moved. I didn't question it. I kept cleaning. Around 3:15 a.m., I returned to my station for a breather and found something waiting for me, a note pinned to my cot. It wasn't typed. It was handwritten, in shaky, uneven lettering. You missed something. It's in the vents. Don't let it crawl out. I stared at the ceiling vent above me, its metal grill slightly ajar. A faint scratching sound echoed through the duct. I grabbed my flashlight and shone it up, catching the glint of something slick and chitinous slithering, just out of reach. I pushed a chair under the vent and slammed it shut with my mop handle, then jammed a screwdriver through the latch. The scratching stopped. By 5:45 a.m., the halls began to hum with activity again. Lights flickered on in offices I hadn't touched. Footsteps echoed from corridors I'd left empty. I saw Dr. Penner again, her coat unbuttoned and clipboard tucked under one arm. "You made it through the first night?" she said without ceremony. "Good. Most don't." I wanted to ask her what the hell was going on, what this place really was, but her expression shut down any questions before they formed. "You've read the rules," she added. "Stick to them. They keep things contained." "Contained?" I echoed. But she was already walking away. When my shift ended, I didn't go home. I couldn't go home. The contract stated I had to remain on site for the full 7 days. No outside communication. No contact with the surface. My only solace was the daylight, thin as it was, leaking through the slits in the windows. But even that didn't feel natural anymore. Not after what I'd seen. As I lay on the cot, the vent above me securely shut. The red logbook in my lap, I flipped back through the pages. The entries went back months, maybe years. All written by different hands, some neat, some barely legible. All filled with times, locations, and phrases like "it blinked back," or "mirror protocol failed," or "lost visual, maybe loose in C-wing." There was a final note scrawled on the inside cover. It wasn't dated. It simply read, "If you make it to day 3, start asking who really cleans up after the messes." I didn't know what that meant. Not yet, but I had a feeling I'd find out soon. The second night began with silence. Not the usual silence of an empty hallway, but something more intentional. Like the facility itself was holding its breath. I woke from a shallow sleep to the distant groan of steel settling in the walls, and a cold that had crept beneath my skin and curled around my bones. The sun had vanished hours ago. The fluorescent lights buzzed to life overhead, and with a resigned groan, I pulled on my uniform, grabbed the mop handle, and flipped open the binder again. The protocols hadn't changed, but I noticed something different this time. A new page had been added at the back, written in the same shaky handwriting as the note I'd found on my cot. If you hear tapping in the walls between 2 and 3 hours a.m., do not acknowledge it. Do not answer it. It is not plumbing. 8. Should you smell lavender anywhere outside the infirmary, leave the area immediately. Someone else is trying to find you. 9. E-wing is still off limits. If you see it open, close it. If it refuses to close, notify control, then run. 10. Do not go into room 43. If you're assigned to clean it, switch shifts. Make up a lie. Do whatever it takes. But do not open that door. That last one made my stomach drop. I hadn't heard of room 43 before. It wasn't on any of the printed maps in the binder. The floor plans for D-Wing ended at room 42. Still, I had learned not to question the rules, only to obey them. The rest of the facility may have been designed by scientists and bureaucrats. But these rules? These came from survivors. I began. My second shift as usual, starting with Wing A. The hallway lights were flickering more than usual, and the chill in the air felt heavier, as though the building had sunk deeper into the permafrost. Around 10 p.m., I passed the breakroom window and saw a shape moving through the snow outside. It was humanoid, but too tall, too thin, and moving too smoothly. I blinked, and it was gone. At 11:11, I returned to the B-Wing lavatory. This time, the mirror was shattered. Hairline fractures ran from corner to corner, spiderwebbing across my reflection. I waited, holding my breath. Nothing appeared behind me, but my own reflection didn't move. It just stood there, frozen, staring at me with an expression I wasn't making. It smirked. I blinked 3 times and backed out of the room, heart pounding. The rule didn't say what to do if you were the one being mimicked. At midnight, I checked the level 2 corridor again with my flashlight. Something stood at the far end this time, not crawling, not shifting, standing, watching. It didn't move when the beam hit it, but I felt it pulse, like a low vibration running through the floor and into my chest. I noted it in the logbook, 12 a.m., section D8, human-shaped silhouette, eyes glowing, faintly blue, no movement, no approach. That last part I added more out of hope than observation. As soon as I turned my back, I felt it follow me. At 12:43 a.m., the smell hit me. Lavender. Faint at first, like a perfume worn long ago, and then stronger, more pungent. Sickly sweet and cloying like rotting flowers. I was mopping near the infirmary, at the time, and instinctively I moved toward the smell. That's when I remembered the new rule. Lavender. Leave immediately. I dropped the mop and sprinted back toward the elevator, heart hammering. The scent chased me, winding through the vents and seeping through the tiles. Just before the elevator doors closed, I caught a glimpse of something around the corner. Pale limbs, impossibly long fingers, and a mouth that opened wider than it had any right to. Back in the janitor's closet, I collapsed on the cot, breathing hard. The red logbook sat on my lap, open to a page I hadn't written in. Someone else had made an entry. No date, no time, just a sentence. If she finds you, pretend to be asleep. That night, sleep didn't come. I spent the hours between 1 and 2 a.m. checking my tools, double-bolting the supply room door, and mentally mapping the facility's escape routes, if there were any. At 2:12 a.m., the tapping began. At first, it was rhythmic, like the ticking of a clock. Then it changed, became frantic, erratic. Scrape, tap, 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 scrape, tap. I froze on the cot, staring at the walls. It came from behind the concrete, deep inside the facility's structure. It traveled, starting in the left wall, then behind the door, then overhead. Do not acknowledge it, the rule had said. But something about the tapping felt deliberate, aware, like it knew I could hear it. My fingers itched to knock back, but I resisted. I forced myself to lie still, breathing through my nose, eyes wide in the sterile dark. Then I heard the whisper, "Help me." A voice, male, brittle, like dry paper, being crumpled. I covered my ears and squeezed my eyes shut. The voice continued, muffled but insistent. "I'm still in the wall. Room 43, I'm still in the wall." I sat bolt upright. Room 43. That room wasn't supposed to exist. After 3 a.m., the tapping stopped. The facility fell back into its hollow. Silence, but the tension remained. I couldn't stop thinking about the voice. Was someone trapped? Had someone been trapped? Or worse, had something else figured out how to lure people by sounding human? By 5 a.m., I decided to risk it. I went back to D-Wing and examined the corridor. The hallway ended at room 42, just like the map showed. But there was a faint seam in the wall, like a hidden door. I ran my fingers along it and felt a draft. A warm draft somehow. In a place where every breath fogged the air, this warmth was wrong. I returned to the closet and opened the binder again. Tucked in the back was a worn Polaroid, slipped between 2 pages like it had been hidden on purpose. It showed a man in a janitor's uniform standing outside a heavy steel door with a faded 43 stenciled onto it. The man's face had been scratched out, but in the photo's corner someone had written, "He answered the knock." When the shift ended, Dr. Penner arrived again, clipboard in hand. I cornered her before she could leave. "What's in room 43?" I demanded. Her face paled just for a second before the mask of indifference slid back on. "There is no room 43, but if you want to keep breathing, you'll forget you ever heard that number." She turned to go, but paused. In the doorway. "Things don't get out unless someone opens the door. You wouldn't want to be that someone." The steel door slammed shut behind her. I sat there, stunned, staring at the Polaroid in my hands. I didn't want to open room 43. I didn't want to break the rules. But something in there was reaching out, calling to me. And the worst part? I was starting to feel like I wanted to answer. The third night started like the others, only this time, something was waiting. I felt it before I saw it, even before I left the janitor's quarters, a weight in the air. Not like pressure, but intent. Like the building was watching me. Or, worse, expecting me. The binder lay open on the cot, the pages fluttering slightly, though there was no breeze. A new note had appeared, written in a jagged scrawl, different from the others. "Do not take the freight elevator past sub-level 2. The doors open, but they don't lead anywhere human. 12. If the elevator stops and you hear a voice offering, you food, do not respond. Do not accept anything, even if it smells like home." 13. Between 2:33 a.m. and 3:01 a.m., the walls may bleed. This is normal. Clean it quietly. Do not comment on it. 14. If the intercom whispers your name 3 times in a row, unplug it, immediately, then hide. I stared at Rule 12 longer than the others. Don't respond to the voice in the elevator. Don't accept food. It seemed so absurd, like a child's fairy tale warning, the kind told around campfires. But after 2 nights in this place, I'd learned better than to mock the absurd. The absurd could kill you here. My shift began at 9 p.m. Wing A was uneventful, too uneventful. No flickering lights, no malformed shadows, no invisible things, dragging clawed feet across the floor. Just silence. I cleaned, I logged times, and I tried not to think about the fact that something had added new rules to my binder without ever entering the room. Or maybe it had entered, and I'd simply been asleep. At 10:42 p.m., I made the mistake of taking the freight elevator. The stairs to level 3 were marked under maintenance, barricaded with flimsy orange tape that fluttered in the breeze of the ventilation system. I knew better, but the mop cart was heavy, and my back still ached from the previous shift. The freight elevator was humming softly. Doors open, inviting. Inside, the control panel flickered with dim amber light. I hit level 3 and the doors shuttered closed. The ride started normally, then the lights dimmed. It wasn't a sudden blackout, more like something was leaching the light from the bulbs. The humming deepened, became guttural, almost wet. I gripped the mop handle tighter. At sub-level 2, the elevator stopped. The doors didn't open. A moment passed. Then 2. Then, ding. The light above flickered. A chime sounded again. Then, from the speaker above, a voice, female, warm, familiar, called my name. Matthew. I hadn't told anyone my name. Not even Dr. Penner. My ID badge just read custodial staff. Still, the voice knew it. Matthew, it said again, sweeter this time. Are you hungry? You haven't eaten in hours. Your mother made your favorite, just like when you were a boy. A smell filled the elevator. Chicken and dumplings, garlic bread, mashed potatoes with gravy. My stomach growled. I clenched my jaw and stepped away from the speaker. I said no, I whispered, mostly to myself. The voice changed, became deeper, hungrier. You will eat. The lights went out. I fumbled for the emergency light, but before I could reach it, the doors slid open. Not to level 3. What I saw was not a hallway. It was a void. Not black, not empty, but hungry. Shapes moved in it. Long, thin figures with too many joints, blinking eyes like lanterns floating in oil. And something stepped forward. It wore the face of my mother, but her mouth opened too wide and her eyes didn't blink. You're a growing boy, it said, holding out a plate of food. Eat. I slammed the elevator button. The doors wouldn't close. You'll die hungry, the thing whispered. I kicked the plate, sending steaming food flying into the void. The things hissed in unison. Just as one began to reach for me, the doors slammed shut and the elevator jolted upward. When the lights returned, I was back on level 3. My mop cart stood in the hallway, untouched. My knees were shaking. I added to the logbook, 11:06 p.m. Freight elevator. Voice attempted to impersonate maternal figure. Offered food, refused. Visuals included humanoid entities. Elevator accessed non-Euclidean space. Do not ride alone. At midnight, I passed the C-wing. The intercom crackled. Matthew. I froze. The voice was soft, static-laced. Matthew. Matthew. That was 3. I yanked the cord from the wall. The speaker popped and hissed like something had bitten into it. Then silence. At 1:30 a.m., I checked the blood cooler. Standard cleaning. The door was sealed and properly chilled, but the bags inside had shifted. Someone, or something, had rearranged them into the shape of a spiral. Each blood pack was positioned with strange precision. No fingerprints, no tampering to the door, just a message. I snapped a photo and marked it in the log. I didn't even want to guess what it meant. At 2:33 a.m., I witnessed Rule 13 firsthand. The walls bled. It started with a low groaning, like steel bending under a glacier, then a warmth in the air, unnatural, sickly. A dark liquid seeped from the tiles, slow and pulsing, like it had a heartbeat. I used the industrial mop, scrubbing silently. Every instinct screamed to run, but the rule was clear. Clean it quietly. Do not comment. As I mopped, I heard breathing behind the walls. Not mechanical, not wind, breathing, slow, deep, something. Massive and alive just beyond the concrete. Watching. I finished without a word, not even daring to hum. When the blood vanished, just evaporated like mist, the air grew cold again. At 3:01, the bleeding stopped, but something new began. The lights flickered red. An alarm triggered in the east wing. My radio crackled, dead silence. Then, suddenly, "Do not let it reach the stairwell." No voice identified. Just the message. I sprinted toward East Wing, passing signs marked "Restricted and Authorized Personnel Only." The emergency lights stuttered as I rounded the corner. Something was crawling down the hallway. It looked human, but it was, dragging itself. Limbs bent the wrong way, spine exposed, eyes glowing like halogen lamps. It moved too fast for something so broken. It was headed for the stairwell that led up to the labs. I didn't think. I grabbed a nearby fire hose and swung it. The stream hit the creature in the face, and it shrieked, shrill and mechanical, like metal tearing metal. It convulsed, retreating, screeching backward on spidered limbs. I slammed the emergency lockdown button just before it reached the door. Steel doors clanged shut. The thing pressed its face to the window, its eyes locked on mine. It whispered one word, lips moving silently. Soon. Back in the closet, I collapsed into the cot, shaking. The logbook was open again. A new entry had appeared. "You did well tonight." But the thing in the elevator knows your name now. You're not safe during power outages anymore. Avoid darkness at all costs. I flipped the page and found something new. A map, one not included in the official binder. It showed the sub-basement, a level beneath sub-level 2. No label, just a room marked 43. A chill swept over me. Room 43 wasn't just real, it was waiting for me. I didn't want to go back. I told myself I'd call in sick, fake an injury, hell, resign. But when I woke up the next night, my phone was dead. Not just off, bricked. The screen wouldn't light up no matter how long I held the button. Even the plug sparked when I tried to charge it, and when I opened the door to leave, I wasn't outside. I was standing in the janitor's closet, again. That's when I realized I wasn't allowed to quit. Not anymore. The binder was on the cot, open to a fresh page. A single new rule had appeared. If the map appears, room 43 is ready for you. Go, or it will come to you. The fluorescent light above flickered, then steadied. Something about the room had changed, shifted slightly, like the dimensions weren't entirely stable anymore. The air was heavier, like I was already descending. I gathered my tools, flashlight, utility knife, small pry bar, and the logbook. I didn't know what good any of them would do, but they gave me a sliver of control. I followed the map, down the hallway, past the normal elevators, past the locked maintenance corridors, past the places I'd already been and barely survived. Then, behind an unmarked steel door in sub-level 2, I found it. A narrow stairwell. The first thing I noticed was the smell. It wasn't rot. It wasn't mold. It was something much worse. Memory. Like someone had bottled the scent of every nightmare I'd ever had and released it all at once. The stairs descended in a tight spiral, deeper than the blueprints should have allowed. No signs, no emergency lights. Only my flashlight and the sound of my own breathing, and then the stairs stopped. A door stood before me, rusted, dented, painted matte black. No window, no handle, just a number carved into the metal, 43. I touched it. The door opened inward without resistance. I should have turned around. I should have run, but I stepped inside. The room was wrong. It wasn't large, maybe 20 by 20 feet. Concrete walls, floor, and ceiling, but the space felt vast, like it extended infinitely in every direction. There was no light, but I could still see. Everything was dim and gray, lit by nothing and nowhere, and in the center of the room was a chair. Someone was sitting in it. At least, it looked like someone. Humanoid, but blurred, as if my eyes refused to settle on it, like it was being viewed through 1,000 smudged lenses. The figure shifted, just slightly, and I felt every nerve in my body scream to flee. The thing turned toward me, and though it had no face, I knew it was watching. "Why did you come?" it asked. Its voice was in my head, not spoken, felt. "I didn't have a choice," I replied out loud. It cocked its head. "Everyone has a choice, even now." I tried to move, but my feet were rooted to the floor. I clenched the flashlight in my hand, trying to force control back into my limbs. "I'm just a janitor," I said. The thing laughed. The sound wasn't cruel or mocking. It was sad, like it had heard that answer too many times. "You're not here to clean," it said. "You're here to remember." Then the walls fell away. Not literally. They just vanished. One moment I was standing in room 43, and the next I was somewhere else entirely. A hospital room, lights buzzing overhead, a gurney with straps, machines beeping. I saw myself, younger, frailer, hooked up to monitors. A woman stood nearby, my mother, though younger too, her eyes red from crying. I was dying. I didn't remember this. I couldn't have. But it was me. "You were sick once," the thing whispered into my mind. "You were supposed to die. But something answered when your mother begged, something that made a deal." The vision shifted. Now a hallway, white walls, doctors walking past as if I weren't there. My mother speaking with a man in a long gray coat. He had no name tag, no expression. "I don't want to lose him," she said. "He can live," the man replied, "but he won't be free." "What do you mean?" "He'll work for us. He won't know it, not at first, but when the time comes, he'll come back." My legs gave out. I collapsed in the gray space, heart pounding. Room 43 didn't kill people. It showed them. It remembered everything. I was never meant to be a janitor. This wasn't a job. It was a contract. A light flared overhead, blinding, piercing. The entity stood before me now, clearer than before. Its form was stitched together from shadows and echoes. I could hear 1,000 voices whispering from within it. It knelt beside me. "You were saved, and now you must serve." "I didn't ask for this," I choked out. "No one does, but you are chosen. That makes you important." I felt something press into my hand, cold, metallic. The logbook. The entity placed it gently in my grasp. "You've survived the rules. You've followed them. But now, you must write them." Before I could ask what it meant, the light snapped out, and I was back the janitor's closet, my cot, my mop bucket, the smell of bleach. It was like I'd never left. Except, the binder was different now. No longer typewritten, handwritten instead. In my own handwriting, rules I hadn't written yet, situations I hadn't experienced. But they were there, dozens of them. "When you return from room 43, don't speak. For the next 24 hours, your voice doesn't belong to you yet." 17. If the mirror shows someone else's reflection, break it quickly. 18. The incinerator will scream. It is not alive. Do not listen. 19. You are not alone anymore. If you hear footsteps behind you, do not turn around. Just keep working. 20. Do not forget who you were. They will try to make you forget. That is how they win. You will never leave this place. But maybe, just maybe, you can help the next one survive. That was weeks ago, or maybe months. Time doesn't work the same here. I clean, I write, I listen, and I wait. Because somewhere, out there, someone else is going to find this place. And when they do, they'll need the rules, they'll need the warnings, and they'll need to know what Room 43 really is. If you're reading this, welcome to the Nightshift. Don't break the rules. And whatever you do, don't look behind you.